listening to the Patriot Nation podcast.
All right, welcome into another edition of the Patriot Nation podcast. As always, a proud member of the CLNS group of podcasts. Make sure you download and subscribe to all those great shows to get great Patriots content all week long. But tonight, it's the Patriot Nation podcast with the guy, Pat Lane, here with my man, Matt St. Jean. And Matt, we are exactly 2 weeks away from the NFL draft. It's heating up. It's heating up, man, and I'm very excited about it.
Well, and it's been such a weird draft cycle for us because we didn't get to it until 3 months after we have been getting to it on the pod.
That's true.
And then the next thing you know, it's like we're in the home stretch right here, which I think I think we're hitting the point where we might have to not take it seriously when things are reported about what teams want. Like we're close enough that now they're going to start putting weird things out there, and some like smoke screen season I think is about to officially be here. And also, like, if you're gonna see any trades made before the draft of picks, like this is where you might start to see it. I think we're officially in that ramp up period. Yeah,
it's a good point. And you would think at least good teams would have been doing smoke screen season for the last 2 months, but
well,
you know what I mean?
Well, and you wanna build on it, obviously. Like you don't want reports coming out of nowhere, but also to a point, if you're trying to smoke screen, you do want some coming out of nowhere. Like if you're trying to smoke screen, you want confusion of some kind, probably.
Yes.
But yeah, I noticed that today there was something I was looking at that was like starting to connect the dots on certain players to certain teams. And it's like, all right, now we're at the point where I know that probably 30 to 40% of these are legit and good and will also be meaningful on draft day. Like the player being talked about is going to be available when the team picks, so something might actually happen there. And the rest of these, I'm like, is this trade fodder, or why is this being thrown out there? Like, I think we're starting to get to that point.
Yeah, I think so too. You're probably right. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of what happens. Obviously a lot of things are on the table. I actually saw a report that said that reporters and people around the league think this is going to be one of the most hectic draft seasons with a lot of trades, in the first round and in the second round and stuff. And that surprised me a little bit because without a ton of top end talent, I guess my curiosity is, why are you moving up? I get why people are moving back, but if there's not a ton of top end talent, why are you in a rush to move up? I guess would be the question for me.
Well, and I think I'm going to guess the answer to that here is going to be that if the board is relatively flat, i.e., picks 15 to 50 may mostly contain players that are roughly graded about the same across a lot of teams, just in terms of overall ability. Then scheme fit and team evaluation probably start to be bigger priorities there.
That's a fair point.
So, like, the ability to trade up to jump a specific team because you and that one other team are going to be interested in these players or this one player or group of players, and you want to make sure you get the guy you want. Now, I know we're going to talk about draft fits here for the Patriots tonight, and I do think there's going to be some open questions as part of the draft fits for the Patriots, which I think will be interesting in this discussion. But like, if you're a team that says we want to make sure that we are getting, hypothetically, like a big-bodied receiver, and you know that a team 5 picks ahead of you wants to get a big-bodied receiver, and you want Denzel Boston, well, you got to go trade up and get in front of them. And then also because the board's relatively flat, it might be a little bit cheaper to move up than in past years.
It's also true.
It might make more sense to make these moves.
Yep. That's all good points. All very good points. So you've swung me. You've swung me. I see it. I get it. I understand. And you're right. It's not necessarily we have to go up and get this specific guy because he's so good, but it's almost like I almost look at it like if you think about tiers, and we understand now that I think we've all kind of come to this point where when we're evaluating people, we're putting them in tiers. And I think that, one of those things is that you look at it and say, okay, well, yeah, these guys are all kind of together. All right, well, if they're all in the same tier, but I like this guy the best out of those tiers, that yes, now I can go up and trade for that guy and say, okay, I can get guys that are all kind of around the same ability, but I like this guy better than the other ones, right? Or he's a better scheme fit, or I like his demeanor, or I like whatever it is, right? And I think that that's an interesting kind of interesting thing for me. So
when I think there's a specific example of this, if we're gonna look at a player, like I look at what do you call it, Makai Lemon,
yeah,
USC. Right now, he is 13th on the consensus board.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Lemon is someone who probably projects to a slot-only role in the NFL, if I had to guess. He's also got some weird personality stuff going on.
Yep.
At 13, that's the Rams. They've been sniffing around wide receiver. Devontae Adams is older. Puka Nacua has stuff going on right now. So, wide receivers need for the Rams. Could Makai Lemon go at 13? Absolutely. Like, that's an easy to see scheme fit. What happens if the Rams don't like him?
Right.
All of a sudden, it's like, all right, well, some of these teams, like, it's how many more teams do you have to get through before you get to a team that not only wants a wide receiver, but is willing to take a wide receiver in the first round that might be a slot only, and is willing to take a receiver in the first round that's a slot only over the other players on the board. So he's the kind of guy who, like, if you want him, you might have to trade up to 12 in front of the Rams to go get him. Or maybe you can just sit at like 31 if you're the Patriots and he just falls to you because it's a weird year and no one is interested in that particular skill set.
Yeah, it's true.
Or it's like, all right, both of these are plausible. And I think there's a number of guys like this where it's going to matter a lot. Like the big question, I think, maybe it's being answered now, but in the top 10, you got 3 top pass rushers in Arvell Reese, Ruben Bain, and David Bailey.
David Bailey, yeah.
It feels like Reese is going too, I think.
Seems like it, yeah.
But like the actual order of those guys coming off the board to me is very much an open question. And like all 3 should go in the top 10, but could they might go, 2, 3, 4, or they might go 2, 9, 10. And either way, I wouldn't be surprised. And like Bailey is a guy who is a unique prospect as a pass rusher. Ruben Bain is absolutely a guy who is a unique prospect as an edge rusher. And you got guys who are unique like that, who, whether we're talking about arm length with him or we're talking about the usage with Makai Lemon, if you have a massive thing that's like, well, he just can't do this one thing, you're just going to be eliminated from teams' boards, even if you're good at stuff, because they're going to say, this is just not what we want.
Mm-hmm.
And like, what happens if a player is just like, he might be a first round talent for almost every team, but he's also off of 10 teams' boards because they're just not interested in him. It's like, all right, well, all of a sudden the guy we thought was going to go at 10 is going to fall to 25.
Right. It's true. That's a good point. And that's a fair point by you. And so we'll see. We'll see what ultimately happens. One thing before we get into this, Nikhil is asking about the Vrabel situation. We mentioned it on Monday. We're just not going to talk about it. It's just not.
I do think
Felger and Maz. I mean, we don't have to spend, But anyways,
there's one other update on that. I just think it's probably worth mentioning because it just came out tonight.
Yeah.
Front Office Sports had an article saying that the photos were shopped around, and TMZ was also brought in. And from what TMZ heard, the person who was shopping the photos knew that it was Mike Vrabel, did not know who the woman in the photos was. So I don't know what that means for the context of the situation, but that's like the newest information we have on it.
Okay.
And I think I think what I said the other night, like I'm not gonna. It's hard. I don't know people's relationships, and all I'll say is that if you're a coach, it's probably not a good idea to be photographed repeatedly with a reporter like that. Uh, you're going to be a leader for the team. We try to minimize distractions.
Yeah, I mean, I don't look. The optics of it suck, right? And if I did that, my wife would be pissed, and if my wife did that, I would be pissed. And if my friend did that, I would be pissed. Like, I don't like it, right? I don't like the way it looks.
Yeah.
But just because it looks one way and the post or whoever it is trying to make a story out of it doesn't necessarily mean it happened that way. And so,
well, and realistically, like coaches, if it is how it looks like it might be, coaches do cheat on their spouses. Like Bill Belichick did this when he was with the Giants, famously.
Correct.
And teams don't really care. Like it's not in the job description one way or the other unless it's impacting the results on the field or your ability to actually coach the guys. So like there's not going to be fallout here from Mike Vrabel unless this thing blows up into something more.
And let's not pretend like the players care either, because there's some of that going on too in the locker room. So anyways. All right, let's start with our draft fits here. Do you want to start on the offensive side of the ball or the defensive side of the ball, or do you want to just bounce around?
I think we should just bounce around.
I like it. I'm going to start, and I'm going to start with I can't pick one, so I'm going to pick 7. Okay. I desperately. The Patriots have to draft at least one of these. I don't want to say twitched up, but attacking defensive tackles. They have to do it. And I love them all. And they all fit. And so I'll just name some of them, but Grayson Halton from Oklahoma, Caleb Proctor from Southeast Louisiana.
He's a guy that's getting some love right now, too.
Who I absolutely love. Landon Robinson from Navy, Jordan Vandenberg from Georgia Tech, even Albert Regis from Texas A&M. There's a lot of these guys that I really like. Skylar Gill Howard from Texas Tech, who isn't quite that same guy, but similar. There's just so many of them, and they fit what the Patriots want to do. And the thing is that and consensus is consensus, but if you look at the consensus board, Halton's the highest, and he's 78, right? So, you're talking about a third-round pick, maybe a fourth-round pick, depending on, if you want to go Landon Robinson or someone like that. But this is, with that third-round pick, that 95 overall, can you snag one of these guys, right? Or can you trade up in the third round to get one of these guys if you like them? So I just think they need more guys that can attack from the inside. There are so many of them in this draft, and they just got to get one of them in. They got to.
I like that. I think they'll go somewhere. Well, I think it's funny because defensive line, they probably need a penetrator. And then when you lose Tonga last year, I think what makes Tonga so interesting is that he was kind of a penetrator as a nose tackle. He's a nose tackle body, but for a nose tackle body, he's quicker and better at penetrating and better at moving than you would expect. So I don't know if there's a guy like that in this class. And I think one of the questions I have about this team next year is when they're trying to replace Tonga, do they think they need someone with size who can defend the run in the middle so they have that? Or are they just going to be content to stay light and penetrating and know that for every 6 or 7 yard run they might get gashed with, or for every 2 or 3 of those, they think having a penetrator is going to create a negative 2 yard run that's going to get someone behind the chains and blow up a drive. Yeah. So if that's, what trade-off are you looking for here? And I love all the guys you talked about. And I think the number of day 3 picks this team has, they'll have the ability to take one of those penetrators if that's what they're looking for.
100%. Can we also talk about, we have the SCO Show draft that we're in a SCO Show Slack channel, the old Mark Schofield podcast we used to host.
Patriots legend,
Patriots.
Mark Schofield.
Yes. Used to host Patriots. Patriots, Locked on Patriots, I'm sorry. Loved him. Great guy. Great show. But anyways, 14th overall by Russell to the Baltimore Ravens, Landon Robinson. I love Landon Robinson,
that.
but 14th overall, it's like, what are we doing here, guy?
Yeah, for some context for people who are out of the loop on this, Russell is a longtime member of the community who is a lot older and very he loves the draft. He scouts guys in person. He used to write letters to the team with his own scouting reports. He loves Landon Robinson and decided to do that in the first round and just have a little fun with it.
Yep.
I think he's awesome. I want to go over. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna call. It's gonna be like forfeits and kind of the exception that proves the rule.
I like it.
For this other one, I'm gonna go at receiver here. So, based on I think what we've seen from Drake May's skill set, the way the league is going, the body types that they need in the receiver room, I think a big body receiver is something they're going to be interested in. Now, AJ Brown is going to be the elephant in the room. Whether or not they make that trade, I think they're going to be in the receiver market here in the draft. So the big body receivers, I'm just going to name a couple of them because I think there's different points in the draft where these guys get interesting.
Yeah.
The first name I'm going to throw out there is actually going to be Jordan Tyson from Arizona State. He's 15th by consensus right now, but he's another one of these guys where it seems like he has a weird profile and not everyone's going to love him. He has not been able to stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Some have questioned his compete level. Those two right off the bat tell me he's probably not a fit for the Patriots, not a Mike Vrabel guy.
Right.
That said, if he's seen as a top 15 talent in the draft and he's there at 31, do you overlook that? On field, he is a fit. In the same vein, Denzel Boston as a big guy. I think you could throw Brazel and Bell, the two, the Tennessee and Louisville guys, in this mold as the big guys. Then you move down the draft a little bit more. Malachi Fields from Notre Dame. And then it's all right, are we talking about Elijah Surratt's bigger, Dejon Stribling, guys like that, is if they might want to bring in as the big body outside guy. And then kind of my exception that proves the rule is the guy who just might be so good that even though you want the bigger guy, you think he's so good you can't pass up on it. And that's Casey Concepcion. If he's there at 31, I think he's a good fit. I actually think in some ways Stephon Diggs is a comparison for him.
Yeah.
And this kind of becomes one of the questions, what skill set do they think is missing from the receiver room going forward? And even more specifically, if you think you can get a playmaker at wide receiver, what genre of playmaker do you want? Do you want the guy who's going to create a lot of separation, or do you want the guy who's going to make your plays at the catch point? I think we're going to learn a lot about the team if they take a receiver here. And if some of these guys are on the board, if they decide to go Concepcion, I think that tells you a lot in that direction. Otherwise, I think we're just going to see him take one of these big body players.
Yeah, I'm also curious too, if a receiver were to drop to 31 and he's one that the Eagles are interested in, do the Eagles pull the trigger and say, you know what, we're going to send you AJ Brown for 31 and maybe something else, and we'll draft a wide receiver here. Right. And I don't know. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but let's just say a guy like Jordan Tyson is a guy that Philadelphia kind of likes. They don't want to spend their first round pick on him. So, they pass on him in the first round, but then he's sitting there at 31 still. And the Patriots say, ooh, okay. Let's see what happens. So, we can kind of go from there. But again, I don't know if that's really what's going to happen, but we'll see. I like Malachi Fields. I think, there's some questions there about whether he has the long speed, whether he's, a good enough separator or whatever. He looked good at the Senior Bowl. It doesn't mean anything, but he looked good at the Senior Bowl. Bryce Lance, I think, is another name that's interesting. He's a big body guy too from North Dakota State. So, and it's just there's a lot of guys. I do think that you're right about that. Nikhil keeps saying that May does not like contested catch guys. I think that's crazy. I think May loves contested catch guys.
Look at him throwing a Kayshon Boutte this year.
Kayshon Boutte's a contested catch guy. Matt Collins a contested catch guy. Those are his favorite targets. Hunter
Henry, a number of this part of it's, I would say, less contested catch too, and more that May sometimes sprays a little bit, having guys with big wingspans who can, even if they're open, corral some of those. I think that's been one of the issues with like Pop Douglas, is that he gets open, but he's a small target, and May
Right.
is just not always as precise with the ball right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see. I think it's
also because Nikhil mentioned in the chat that Concepcion's the only highly ranked wide receiver the Patriots have had a top 30 visit with. I would just add the caveat to that we know of. We don't
correct.
know all the visits. So, and that's, I do think, interesting, though, is that it's a very good argument that they should be leading into a big body guy.
Yeah.
So if Concepcion's the only guy up top that they're interested in, that's notable to me. Maybe they aren't interested in a big body guy. Maybe they just want a pure separator and they're looking for another Stephon Diggs type.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it's interesting about that. It's a good question here. He's 5'10". How is Booty contested catch guy? I would just say watch the film. That's what I would say. Brazel's a guy that scares the hell out of me. The hell out of me.
There's rumors about him having off-field stuff too. I don't know
Yeah.
any details to that, but they say not to scout the helmet, and I get that. I also look at Tennessee wide receivers. Like, it's not scouting the helmet; it's what they're asked to do. Right. They run very different route trees, and I think one of the difficulties with evaluating receivers is that most receivers don't see press coverage very much in college. And so you just don't know how good they are at the NFL level because they haven't been asked to beat it. Right. And I think no team sees less of that than Tennessee. So, like, he's looked good when he's faced it, but he doesn't do it a lot. And I don't know. You get such favorable looks as a wide receiver in that scheme too. Like, the entire thing is to basically take athletes and just put them in really easy positions. So, like, I like a lot about Brazel, and also scares the Jesus out of me.
Yep. Totally agree. So, all right. I'm going to stay on the offensive side of the ball. I'm going to go inside, though. I'm going to go interior offensive line here. I love Emmanuel Bregnon, but I'm not going to go with him because it's too early for a guard. Keelan Rutledge is really kind of moving up draft boards. I like Keelan Rutledge's fit with the Patriots. I'm not taking him 31, and I'm sure as hell not taking him over Emmanuel Bregnon. So, if both of them are on the board and the Patriots want a guard, my hope is they take Bregnon. My hope is that they don't do either one, to be honest with you. If Rutledge is really actually going to be an end of the first round type of guy, I don't want them to draft him at 31. If Bregnon goes to the end of the first round and Rutledge is there at 63, that's a different story. I'm on board with that, right? I can be convinced into that. I'm not taking him in the top 50. I'm just not doing that. So that's how I feel about that. I do really I think later on in the draft, they had Jeremiah Wright in. I think Jeremiah Wright is a good fit for what they want to do. I think Inez Cooper is an interesting fit for what the Patriots want to do. He's later on in the draft, but a big-bodied guy, similar to like a Mike Onwenu type of player. I like the way that he plays. And so, you can and then you can look at centers and whatnot, but I think Jalen Farmer is another name from Kentucky that I really like, that I think fits well for what the Patriots want to do. So, I think that when you start looking at, what are the Patriots going to do? Where are they going to attack the interior of the offensive line? And we're going to talk about tackles too, I'm sure, in a little bit. But I think the interior of the line is interesting because it's a position of need, I think, for the Patriots. But it's not really starter position of need. It's more depth position of need. But at the same time, Elijah Vera Tucker can't stay healthy. Mike Onwenu is going into the final year of his deal. So, there are question marks about.
We have no idea if Jared Wilson's. We have no idea if Jared Wilson's good. If you want,
and that's the other part of it is that do you want to draft a backup center? Do you want to draft a backup guard that could start for you year one, theoretically, if Elijah Vera Tucker goes down with an injury, right? Or if the Patriots decide to turn around and trade Mike Onwenu or something like that. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but if they look at it and say, well, we don't really want to sign him to an extension again, well, then what other option do you have? You trade Mike Onwenu and you draft a guard to replace him. And so, I'm curious to see what their thoughts are there.
Can I take the free square on the bingo board here?
Sure can.
Baxi and Achar at right tackle.
Yeah.
Does kind of seem like the obvious fit.
He does.
He seems to be the type of athlete that they would be looking for that fits specifically like the strength profile at tackle that they would like. He plays on the right side, which is their biggest position of long-term need on the line when you also take into account value at the position and how hard the players are to get. And the Patriots met with him. He seems to fit right around when they're going to be picking in the first round. Spoiler, he will be taken by the Patriots in my next mock draft.
Okay.
Also, spoiler, he will not be taken by the Patriots at 31.
Oh, okay.
I'll throw that out there. But yeah, that just feels, and then I think you could also make an argument for Blake Miller.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think they just like Ian Achor more. Like Ian Achor is just stronger, and I think they've said expressly that's something they value right now. I mean, you look back last offseason too, they kind of telegraphed what they were going to do. Maybe they're doing that again. They said they want to get stronger on the line. They've done a lot with Ian Achor.
I mean, I think that certainly makes a ton of sense to me. I think you're probably right that they prefer him over Blake Miller. I like Blake Miller as well. I think he's probably a little bit more polished, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be a better player. And especially where whoever they draft is probably going to be sitting for a year, right? They might be forced into action. You might be playing this year because, Will Campbell got hurt last year. Maybe he gets hurt again. You're talking about 37 or 38-year-old Morgan Moses. Like he, had played 20 games last year, right? So will he stay healthy all year long? So I think you're drafting a guy in this spot, and I think that's why trading up in the first round, if you really like that guy, right? If INHer or Ian, I thought it was INHer, but whatever.
We just call him Nacho.
Nacho, love it. Oh yeah. I need that. So if Nacho is the guy they want, trade up to 24. I'm cool with that. Trade up to 25, whatever the case may be, right? Give up one of those fourth-round picks to move up a few spots and grab him. Like, I'm okay with that if that's what they want to do. And then you're drafting for the future, but you also could be drafting for this year as well. Another guy that I forgot on the interior offensive line, which I'm mad at myself, which I'm very upset with myself, is Jennings Dunker. Dunker is a guy who's listed as a tackle. He's going to be a guard in the NFL. That's the position for him. But like, he's mean, he's nasty, he's physical. He just he brings that attitude. And I love him. If the Patriots don't go offensive line in the first round, he's a guy I would, at 63, I think would be awesome for what they're doing. He's actually at 63 on the consensus board right now. So, who knows what that means, but that's a guy that I feel like if you're going to target guard in the second round, I'm a huge fan of going Dunker. But I think that at tackle, I think those two really make the most sense. And then if you want to kind of go down the list, I think Jude Bowery is a guy we've talked about a good amount. I think Markel Bell is a guy we've talked about a good amount. Obviously a very different player than some of the other guys that we're looking at, right? He's 6'9", 500 pounds. He's a monster, right? He's just huge. But that works at right tackle. Imagine him and Onwenu together on the right side of the line. That's so much beef on the right side of the line, And so you talk about getting more powerful, you're really getting more powerful over there. So Travis Burke's another guy they've looked at, from Memphis, another big guy, right? And so,
and it's not just big with Burke too. It's the nastiness. It's the ability to finish blocks, sustain blocks, and taking pride in that. I was listening to Nate Tice did a pod with his father, where they Mike Tice, where they break down offensive linemen. Is that Mike Tice was talking about how when you finish a good block, it's gonna sting in your nostrils a little bit, and you're gonna hurt. That's how you know that it's a good block.
Yeah,
and that's all. When I talked about that, all I was thinking of is some of that Travis Burke film where he is just pancaking dudes and putting them in the dirt, and that's clearly culturally what Vrabel's looking for.
100%. And so, I'm curious to see kind of where that goes. And what they do. I think it's painfully obvious that they have to go offensive tackle at some point early on. I would say by the end of round 3. I would be surprised if the Patriots haven't taken an offensive lineman by the end of round 3. I just feel like they have to. Whether it's a guard, whether it's a tackle, whatever it might be, I just think that has to be the case. Now, maybe you want to say, we can wait till round 4, and maybe a guy like Travis Burke will be sitting there at 125. I just don't know if he will be. I don't know how I feel like waiting for that. So I think you have to go out and get a guy like that if you prefer Burke or you prefer Bell or whatever it is, whoever it is that you prefer. I'm okay with that if you want to wait a little bit longer, but you just kind of have to feel like they have to go and get someone. And I think you're right. Like if they want to get Nacho, oh, that's so good, dude. Now I hope they draft him because that would be awesome if we call him Nacho. If they want to get Nacho and they got to move up for him, then do it. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And by the way, Matt, the other Matt comments here that Dane Brugler has Burke as his 79th player overall. So you talk about a guy that
not seen that.
That is flying up the draft board. And again, it's Dane Brugler. Like that doesn't necessarily mean that he's guaranteed to go in the top 100 or whatever. And it's really fascinating when you see, okay, this guy has him here, this guy has that guy here, this guy has this guy here. So, I'm really I like that. Also, Matt says he's been planning to make a plate of Max Ian nachos. Ian nachos for the draft. I love it.
Oh, that's great. I haven't made nachos in a while, but I got some pickled jalapenos in the fridge I need to use up.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have some chicken I need to use up. I think I know what I'm doing this weekend. That sounds
there you go. Good. Love it.
He's a guy too, Travis Burke. It's just like the consensus boards have him as a late 7th rounder. Then you look at 8 top 30 visits. That's not typical of a guy who's going to go that late in the 7th round, and who also, I don't think there's massive questions about Burke. Like sometimes you see a lot of visits with day 3 guys because it's like, oh, this guy's a day 3 guy because he had an arrest somewhere, or he's got a medical concern, or he played with a weird coach or something where it's like, okay, like there's an obvious reason why teams are going to want to visit with him. Burke's a pretty standard prospect, I feel like. So I think he's just someone who the NFL has probably been high on for a while, and the media is just now only catching up to that.
Yeah. Nikhil is trying to point out that Nacho is the opposite of Campbell, where he's like, has the measurables, kind of lacks the production. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. Like, he wasn't considered one of the best tackles in college. I'll fully admit that, but it's not like he's some no-name guy that no one's ever heard of. Like, I get it. I just, I think he's a little bit better than that. You are projecting out. Like, that's 100%. I agree with the fact that you're definitely projecting out. He's a different level of player. So I get that part of it. It's obviously very different from what Will Campbell was. Obviously, Will Campbell with the arm length and everything else, and everyone was worried about that, and so on and so forth. And so I'm curious to see I'm really interested to see what happens with Will Campbell year 2. I believe he's a left tackle. I know a lot of people don't. I know Keegan does not. Keegan was on here, said they need a left tackle still. There's a lot of people that believe that he's eventually going to move to guard, and maybe he will. I don't know, right? I still believe that he can be a left tackle and a good left tackle. But that remains to be seen. And I'm curious to see what work he puts in this offseason and, and what, what it kind of looks like. So, and again, sometimes the other part of it is that, okay, his movement skills are really kind of his game, right? The fact that he has the ability to move so much. Well, and tackle is just a position where you just get beat to hell all year long, right? And do you lose some of that fluidity? Do you lose some of that athleticism throughout the course of the year just from getting beat up all year long? And, so all of a sudden that advantage that you have isn't as much of an advantage. I mean, I'm just kind of spitballing here, but I'm curious about that. So,
Nikhil also asking a question in the chat about Spencer Fano.
Yeah.
Asking if he could fall to them at 31. I would say this about offensive tackle in general. I think, like I was talking about with Mekhi Lemon, I think there's a lot of that at tackle. Like, when you look at some of these guys at the top, there's probably 7 guys who are going to go, and it's like Monroe Freeling is the kind of guy who is like a pure tackle, a little bit developmental, but like easy to see him as a left tackle. He could go really high. Guys like Spencer Fano and Spencer Fano is like probably the best offensive lineman in this draft, and also we're not entirely sure what position he's going to map to. Caden Proctor is also like freak athlete and also doesn't always show up on tape. Like you don't always see that in the actual player. Like he doesn't always finish or sustain blocks. He's clearly powerful, but doesn't always show it. And then like you got Lomu, you got Miller, who's got his own flaws and his own play style. There's a lot of tackles in this draft who are not going to be scheme fits for every team, are not going to be personality fits for every team, are not going to be tackles for every team. So like I would throw Fano in there. So I'm like, I don't think Fano falls all the way to 31. I just think he's too good of a player for that. But he's the kind of guy where he might be the best offensive lineman in this draft and also the fourth offensive lineman off the board because of the way things fall.
And by the way, 32 and 7/8 on the arm length for him. So just something to keep in mind.
Also, my take on the Will Campbell stuff is that you really shouldn't be moved too far off of wherever you were last year on him. Like he doesn't look like a bust. He doesn't look like a future Pro Bowler right now. He looked fine at left tackle last year for most of the season, and then got hurt and had a couple rough games against some of the best defenses in football. So, it's fine. He was better than I personally thought he was going to be. Went better than I expected to go. I'm not even going to change my priors on that a whole lot.
Yeah,
they're going to. Barring something crazy, he's going to play all of next season at left tackle, and you're not even going to consider reevaluating before then unless something really awful goes down.
100%. And you're talking about a guy who's 22 years old who, we'll see how it goes. So it is curious. He was talking about, Matt was talking about Brugler. He does have Fano as his number one tackle. And then he has Mwaga, and then Freeling at 3. Yeah. And then Proctor, Lomu, Miller, Nacho, and then Tiernan's actually 8.
And Tiernan there's a big gap. Ian Ochoa is 33 overall, and Tiernan 65 overall.
Yeah,
so that's a tier break,
which makes sense. You know what I mean? And so Tiernan, Burke, and then Bell is 8, 9, 10, which is interesting. And then you look at the consensus board. If you're just looking at mock draft database, like it looks similar to that. It's not that far off, right? They have Fano's 12 and Mwaga's 5, and then Freeling's 11, but it's pretty similar to that. They have Crown over Brian Parker and then Bowery. They actually have, as you said, Burke is like down at 187 or something like that. So they obviously have he has Burke and Bell a lot higher, but
and Burke is moving up. So on March 28th, Travis Burke was 355th on the consensus board. As of April 4th, he was 254th, and today he's 187. I thought I was reaching on him, taking him in the 6th round for the Patriots in a mock draft I did last week, earlier this week. That's the one that we reviewed in the last episode. I think that's already outdated. So.
Right, which is interesting, and that's what it's so fascinating when you look at that. When you look at that, it's just I love it. It's interesting, and it's funny how you see that stuff happen, Yeah. So,
should we do tight ends real quick? Take a break and then go to defense.
Love it. Start us off with tight ends. Go ahead.
I think what's interesting to me here at tight end, I think like basically everyone in this class is on paper a fit because they have a receiving tight end and they have a blocking tight end right now.
Yeah.
So you can draft any skill set. I think the interesting thing is what skill set are they going to value? That said, guys I personally like, I've really come around on Eli Raridan. I'm a fan. Mm-hmm. I like Oscar Delp. I think with like guys like Max Clare and Oscar Delp, I'd like them. I just have to see, what round we're talking about them getting drafted. And then like blocking tight ends. Day 3 is filled with these guys. Marlon Klein from Michigan, Will Kachmarek from Ohio State, Dallin Bentley from Utah, Riley Nowakowski from Indiana. There's just a couple that come to mind. And then I'm also I'm a Carson Ryan guy. I don't think he's a tight end one in this league, but I think he's a fit, and I like him as a player. So I'm just going to keep throwing that out there.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're totally right. Like there's so many. I think the tight end position is really fascinating. Like Eli Stowers is fascinating to me too. He is a similar player to Raritan, I believe. I think Stowers, and there was a report that said that some teams are evaluating Stowers as a wide receiver instead of a tight end, and I think that makes sense. I see it. I get why. But I'm fascinated with him. I just think the ability to kind of win in the seam with him, I think, is interesting. Big Christmas out of NC State, I think, is a good name that I like as well. And so, and even Jack Endries from Texas, Joe Royer from Cincinnati, I had in one of my mock drafts. Like, it's just, I'm curious to see kind of what they think the role is going to be for tight end and what they want from tight end. I think that at this point, you have to draft a tight end. You have to, because you're just, I like what Hunter Henry's given them. He's getting old, right? I don't believe in the kid they got from Miami, Julian Hill, right? Is it Julian Hill?
Yeah.
And he's fine. I just don't believe in him as a true tight end too. And I don't think he's a developmental guy behind Hunter Henry. So, I feel like you have to get a guy. You haven't drafted a tight end. You haven't hit on tight end in forever in the draft, probably since Gronk. You haven't hit on an actual tight end in the draft. And so I just need them to draft a guy that can play. He doesn't have to be a tight end one. He doesn't have to be like the next, Brock Bowers. Just get a guy that can play. And so if that's Raritan a little bit later, if that's, Sam Roush or Oscar Delp or whatever, get a guy that you bring in and you can develop him. So,
I think days 2 and 3 of this draft have a lot of guys who project as like a tight end 2, and that's useful. That guy's going to play 30% of snaps.
Yep.
You want that guy to be a good player. So, I think a lot of tight ends are going to go in this draft.
Yeah, I think so too. And that's one of those things where it's just like, hey, what can you get out of him? What can you get out of those guys? And Nelson's asking about RJ Maryland, the tight end from SMU. I kind of like that. 6'4", 236. Not the longest arms, but 4.51 in the 40. Like, he's got some juice. He's got some juice. So, and Nikhil brings up Nate. Is it Boriker from Texas A&M?
I'm not sure how you say it.
Who's actually a guy that I'm actually not really familiar with him, to be very honest with you.
And there's so many tight ends in this draft.
Well, that's the hard part, is that there's just a million guys. Like, I just don't, he's a little bit down the list, but 6'5", 245, like a decent guy, a decently big player. So, that's interesting. But he's more of a blocking tight end, to be honest with you. Yeah, he's got a little bit of speed and whatnot, but it looks like he's more of a blocking tight end. But yeah, I mean, I don't care who it is. Like, just identify the guy, draft him, and develop him. Like, that's all I'm looking for. So, and I think you got to do that this year. So,
yeah.
So I'll take a quick break, and then we'll jump back over to the defensive side of the football. The playoff push is heating up with tournament hoops are here. And there's no better way to cash in if you're right on the high-flying hoops action than PrizePicks, America's #1 sports app. Every bucket, every time, and every win means more when you're playing on PrizePicks. And with their brand new Teams Picks markets, you can now pick game winners, spreads, and totals on top of the player picks you already know. So cash in if you're right during all the clutch buckets, slam dunks, and Cinderellas this spring with team picks on PrizePicks. That's right. You can pick the winner straight up. Who's going to win the next big basketball game? Who's going to win the fight? Who's going to win the next big hockey game? Back your takes with real money. What you're going to do, download the PrizePicks app today and pick your first game winner, spread, or total as the playoff push rolls on. And when you do that, you're going to get $50 in daily fantasy lineups when you play your first $5 lineup when you use the code CLNS. Again, that's code CLNS on PrizePicks to get $50 in daily fantasy lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks Predict is a registered FCM. offering team picks and coach picks as event contracts. Trading involves significant risk, not for all. The content provided is for informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute investment advice or recommendation to trade any commodity interest or an offer to open an account. CLNS is not registered with the CFTC or NFA. Prize Picks Predict does not endorse or guarantee any statements made by third-party promoters or influencers. Please consult with qualified professional before making any trading decisions. Okay. We're back. By the way, Matt points it out. Here we go. Ooh, golly. Tight ends drafted since 2010. In other words, the Gronk Hernandez double dip. Lee Smith, AJ Derby, Ryan Izzo, Devin Asiasi, Dalton Keene, and Jaheim Bell.
That, especially Asiasi and Keene. The last couple times they've double dipped at positions, it has not gone well. Receiver with Polton Baker, tight end Asiasi and Keene. You want to go back? The last time they double dipped at receiver was the Aaron Dobson, Josh Boyce class in 2013. Yep.
I was sure Josh Boyce was going to be a stud. I was sure it was going to happen.
I was a big Josh Boyce. He drew that one pass interference penalty in the Browns comeback in 2013. I think that was the high point. But
yeah, it's bad. That's bad. And all those tight ends stink. I'm sorry, Claire. Cover your ears if you're listening. Ryan Izzo, not good. None of those guys are good. Just the way it goes. Nikhil does point out the Douglas booty double dip in 2023 that has worked out pretty good.
Oh, true. Yeah, I'm thinking of double dips where one of the guys is
higher up in the draft, right? Which is true. Yeah. Douglas and Booty both 6th-round picks, of course, in 2023.
And the fact that some of their double dips haven't worked out, like you should continue to do it, especially with how many draft picks they have. It's not that double dipping is a bad strategy; it's just that you can double dip and still miss on both.
Well, that's ultimately, that's what it comes down to.
The fundamental thing at the core of the NFL draft is that you are projecting the future of 21 to 23-year-old men into a league that is always changing.
100%.
You're trying to predict the future here, and you're just no one has figured that out. If you figure that out, man, you're going to be very rich.
Yeah, I agree. So, all right, let's flip to the defense side of the ball. At linebacker, there's a few guys here. I think Anthony Hill Jr. makes a lot of sense. Jacob Rodriguez is the guy that I love. We talked about this in the last show a little bit. I don't know how well he fits what the Patriots want to do. I just don't know if he's a fit for what the Patriots are. I just feel like the Patriots want to do a little bit more blitzing. I think they need a little bit more athleticism. Not that he's not athletic, but I think that they want a little bit more of a coverage guy as well. And Jacob Rodriguez is a good player. I think he might be one of the better middle linebackers in the draft. But I don't necessarily know if he is a scheme fit for exactly what the Patriots want to do.
Well, I think that's a question of what do the Patriots want to do? Because if the Patriots saw their blitzing last year and said that was good to get us to the playoffs, then this is not something we want to be in the future. Then I think Rodriguez makes a lot of sense. I like him as a prospect. I think there's a lot to like there. I think he's excellent in coverage, and it's always tough with linebackers because you never know how the mental is going to make that leap.
Right.
But I thought he showed a very good ability to sift through traffic in match coverage and figure out who he needs to cover and stay on guys. That's a very valuable skill set at that position. Not many players are able to do that. I think Rodriguez is a good player. I think he can be a scheme fit. I do think linebacker is a position where if they draft it high, they're probably making a declaration about their scheme right there in one direction or another. So I really like Jacob Rodriguez. I really like Anthony Hill. I think both are fits. Yeah. I like both. If they had to pick between the two of them, I think that tells you a lot about which direction they want the defense to go, whether they want to focus more on the coverage aspect or the blitz aspect.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. So I'm curious kind of how that goes. I will say there's a few of the guys. Nikhil mentions Jake Golday, who I like as well. Bryce Boucher is a guy. Nelson's actually mentioned Bryce Boucher and Red Murdoch. Those are guys that I like a lot, so, and again, I don't know exactly where they're going to go and what they're looking at. Kyle Lewis is a guy that we've talked about on here before, who I love that flexibility. And again, this Kyle Lewis is a very Marte Mapu type of player. And I said it when they released him or when they traded him, and I'll say it again, and I'm going to continue to say it. Just because he didn't work out doesn't mean you should stop drafting guys like him. You know, I just think that, okay, he might not work out, and maybe he will, but like I just feel like that's the type of player that wins in this league now. Not all those guys are going to work out, right? And so I like the idea of going after a Kyle Lewis like that. You know, Bocher's a little bit further down, maybe even a Harold Perkins type guy. Harold Perkins is a weird fit, I feel like, but man, some of his film is just wild. So like, I just Harold Perkins is an interesting player, man, and Lander Barton too is another guy too who I like.
Yeah. All right, I just gotta enjoy. Nikhil's talking about how we don't know how 30 visits impact things. We talked about 30 visits all cycle last year and all cycle this year. We have made an effort to put at least one or two 30 visit guys in like all of our mock drafts, and we talk about it every live mock that we do.
I will also say that not everyone they draft is a 30 visit guy. They just don't draft.
It'll probably be one or two of the guys that took 30 visits with, and we won't know on draft night all of the players that took 30 visits with.
Right.
So,
right. And again, there are a few guys where you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And I'll give you an example. A great example from last year. Who the hell is the kid from Arkansas that oh my God, he's blanking on the name. The wide receiver that the Lions drafted. Tesla. Right. Thank you. Jesus, I love that kid too. But Tesla was like a 6th, 7th round pick. Like he was getting drafted late day 3. Yes, thank you. He was getting drafted late day 3. And sure enough, they met with him, fell in love with him, and drafted him in the 2nd round. And so, and why was that? It was because that they brought him in for a top 30 visit, which people didn't really talk about until draft night, when after the Lions drafted him, they were like, oh, here's some video of him at the facility with wearing a custom jersey that has his name on the back of it already, right? Like those are things that like Tesla is an interesting case. That's the type of player that like really that top 30 matters, right? And he was right, 3rd round. He went right after the pick after Kyle Williams. But
side note, we mentioned that real quick. Is that Travis Burke this year with like all these teams meeting with him, where all of a sudden he's just going to go in that range? And
certainly could be.
Whoa, and that.
No. Yeah, certainly could be. That's a good call too. That's a really good call. I'm curious about. Like I'm curious how that will work out.
Like if the Pats took Travis Burke with pick 95,
right? Yeah,
or 63. Like. And I think you probably have a lot of angry fans if they took him at 63.
I think so too. But I mean,
there were a lot of angry Lions fans last year with that pick.
And all he did was catch touchdown passes. So like he was a fun player. So anyway,
but then he also was not very good for the most part.
Well, and that's part of the problem, right? So
yeah.
But anyways, so I don't know if do you want to talk about edge?
Yeah, I think edge to me, this is kind of a cop-out. I think, like, once you get past the top guys in this class, I feel like basically everyone, like the next, like, 10 edge defenders, I'll look at everyone from, like, if we want to say Keldrick Falk or want to say TJ Parker, down to, like, Romello Height, Joshua Josephs, Kieran Crawford. I don't see massive differences in this group.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think you can make an argument for every single player being a fit. No skips in the chat, by the way, saying that 30 visits more of a position indicator for the draft. I agree. Patriots have met with edges. They're going to take an edge. I think they're going to take at least one of these guys in this group.
Mm-hmm.
I think Gabe Akis is someone, I think that's how you say it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Who's got like that physicality that they're really going to like. And that effort, I think Malachi Lawrence probably falls in that. But like, I don't know what skill set they're looking to maximize here at the position just yet. So I think conceivably any of these guys are. Like I really like Derek Moore as a scheme fit. Also like TJ Parker, Cassius Howell, Zion Young, that trio I think I'm less in on than some of these others. Romello Height, I'm also and they met with him, which I think is interesting.
Right.
But I think I like it like Malachi Lawrence, R. Mason Thomas, Gabe Akis, Derek Moore. All four of those guys, to me, I think are scheme fits.
Yeah, and then you go down the list, right? And it's almost like the two Florida guys, right? George Gums and Tyreek Sapp. Like those guys are interesting, right? So it's like, and that's obviously later, but even a guy like, Namde Tucker from Western Michigan, and a guy that I like a lot is, Keyshawn James Newby, who he's a guy that's kind of moving up some of those draft projections where you kind of say, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. Like I'm curious as to see, to see kind of where he ends up and where he's going to go and whatnot. So that's kind of that's an interesting guy for me that I like. And again, who knows kind of where that looks or where he goes and whatnot. But I am curious about that. I'm actually looking at the beast to see where James Newby falls. Although, I've gone too far now. I've gone too far. James Newby, I think I thought maybe he'd be in the best of the rest, but it looks like he's in this top 30 edge defenders. And now I'm just scrolling and it's not working out very well. But nevertheless, the point is that he's a guy that is going to be available later on in the draft, right? And is he a guy that the Patriots are going to like? Is he a guy that he has him at 44 as a free agent, but he has him as his 44th overall edge rusher. So he is in that list. Whereas George Gums, a guy that he has a fifth round grade on, and he's 23 overall. So I'm curious, and it's really going to be fit and who you like and what kind of guy you want, and do you want someone that's going to stop the run? Do you want someone that's just going to rush the passer? Do you want it's all those different things that are really going to be decide on where you end up taking those guys. And so I'm interested to see what that looks like.
Yeah. I think that the only real position we have left here is probably maybe defensive back in general, because we got corner and we got safety.
Yeah.
If we want to jump to corner real quick, I really only have one that is like for me one of my favorite guys.
Oh, it's it.
It's Davis Igbinosun.
Yeah.
He's like, for me, when I like corners, I like guys who are physical and I like guys who play with attitude. Igbinosun, check
Mm-hmm.
on those boxes.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's someone who has inside-outside versatility. And I think he's someone who can play safety. I don't think he's the kind of guy who's ever a Pro Bowler. I don't think he's ever a corner one. He might not even be a corner two, but I think he's the kind of guy who can be your nickel back. He can play inside or outside. You can move him around. He's going to be good in the locker room and a good character guy. He's going to spark your team. And those guys are incredibly useful. Like I see a very clear role for him in the NFL. And, there's a world where Igbinosun ends up being a guy who's infamous on NFL Twitter because he's going to have a couple moments of really ugly penalties or showboating or things like that. But I need DBs to play with attitude. And I also look at the secondary and I love Marcus Jones and Christian Gonzalez. Neither of those guys plays with what I would call swagger most of the time. They play with quiet confidence.
Yep.
I think having another vocal guy in that group probably is something that helps your dynamic. So I'm in on Igbinosun. And he's an Ohio State guy, which I hate as a Michigan fan, but I'm sure Mike Vrabel would love.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
That's from the Matt Patricia scheme, too.
It's very true. It's very true. I like Thad Dixon from North Carolina, but again, I've kind of said this over and over. I just can't see the Patriots drafting anyone from UNC. I just can't see it happening. It could happen. I can't see it happening. I just don't think that they're going to. Charles Demings from Stephen F. Austin's a guy I love. I just think he's long and physical and big and, runs pretty fast. And so he's a guy that I like a lot a little bit later. But I don't really have a ton of guys either. Traden Stukes is a guy who I have a soft spot for Traden Stukes. He's just such a crazy athlete. Yeah. But he's just Danny Almonte. I have no idea how old he is. No one can tell you how old he is. I don't know. I don't know. He could be 28 for all I know. I have no idea. He could be 35. I don't know. But I like him. I like him quite a bit. And Tony Stark's asking about the safety corner from South Carolina. I don't think he's talking about Cisse. I think he's talking about what the hell is the kid's name? Kilgore, Jalen Kilgore.
Oh
Who
yeah.
I like as well. I think he's more of a safety than he is a corner. Nelson mentions Dalen Everett, who's a guy that I like as well. Yeah, I had him in one of my early mocks as well. So, they clearly have a type of corner, and I think that those guys kind of fit that type. How early will they go? A guy that's getting a lot of love right now is Chris Johnson from San Diego State. I think that he fits what they want to do. I think he's a guy that fits kind of what they want to do. But they're not going to reach that early. I don't think they're going to take a corner that early. If they do, I'm going to be worried. If they hit corner at 31, everyone in New England's going to be panicking. So, that's obviously with Christian Gonzalez, heading towards a contract extension at points. I think that's not that we're worried about it, but maybe it says more about Carlton Davison than anyone else. But nevertheless. My favorite corner in the draft, my personal favorite corner in the draft, outside of the top guys, is D'Angelo Pons. I have a type, obviously. Marcus Jones is my favorite corner, and now D'Angelo Pons is a guy that I love. He just plays so much bigger than his size. He's an outside corner who's just an absolute warrior out there. I just love the way he plays football. But you have a 5'8", 180-pound guy already. You just can't draft another one. I love him so much, but it's for the Patriots. It makes no sense.
You only have so many roster spots for those guys, even if the guy's fun.
Right. So I think he's going to be an awesome player. I think he's really going to be an awesome player for the Patriots. But what are you going to do? You got Marcus Jones. You can't. You just.
So you're going to trade Marcus Jones. But
that's the thing, right? It's
I don't know why you do that.
100%. So, anyways, so that's what we got. Safety is interesting because if you look at the big board on safety, you have Downs at 9, you have Thieneman at 18, and you have EMW at 24. The next highest guy is Halsey, who's at 57. Yeah. So there is a massive drop off. And then even
a tier break, 80, the next guy's 83 after that. So it's 3 first-round safeties, 1 second-round safety, and then you have between 83 and 95, you have 5 safeties on the consensus board, including the 89, 90, and 94, 95 there. That's another tier.
So it's a lot. And then, of course, there's another tier break to 120, and then there's another tier break see you later. You're talking 6th, 7th round picks, guys. So it's I am interested to kind of see where they go. I think, McNeil Warren's a guy that fits, depending on what they want to do,
He's the one guy I was going to bring up at safety. That's man,
I'm
not going to go safety in the first, I don't think, but they've took a visit with him and this is where you start to get into the wild card situations where it's man, you might really some tackles or some receivers. If you think Emmanuel McNeil Warren is a potential Pro Bowl safety who fits everything you want to do on defense and allows you to play dime half the time and have 6 DBs out there, then you probably pick him.
Yeah.
I always get concerned about being too in love with a guy, but he's a freak athlete at that position, and that's fun, man. So I think I'm in.
Well, the way that the way NFL football is moving, you need more guys that play like he does, right? You need more guys that can play safety, but can play in the box, but can play with speed, that can play with physicality. You just need guys like that. And, there's just a limited amount of those guys in the world, right? There's not a lot of them. And so it's if we want to play with another safety and we like the way he can play in the box and we like his physicality and we like his speed and we like his athleticism, well, it's there's only so many guys you can go after. So, if that's the guy you want, then I think you take him. I think Halsey, No Skips Radio mentions Halsey. I just think he's a good player too, man. If they want to go safety at 63 and he's sitting there, I think that, he's a solid player as well from LSU. And then any of those 3rd round safeties, Wheatley's a guy that we talked about because you had him in your last mock. Yeah. Kilgore is someone that
also did a visit. Yeah.
Yep. Kilgore is someone that someone mentioned earlier. Bud Clark, Kamari Ramsey, and then Genesis Smith is okay.
Genesis Smith is one of my favorite names in the draft.
Yeah.
Genesis Smith sounds like the protagonist in a book.
He does. You're right. So
I love it. Like,
yeah,
do you know the book and movie Ready Player One?
I do.
That's for those who don't know. It's like a virtual reality future where everything is set in the 80s because the guy who created the virtual world loves the 80s. Genesis Smith sounds like the name of a character from that universe.
Yeah,
To me, that's
that's
all
true.
I think of. So yeah, I like him as a player too. I think he'd be a fit. I think there's anyone like down the board that stood out to me at safety. I don't really think so.
Well, so Nelson's talking about Jacoby Thomas from
I have not
Miami.
watched him, so I can't comment there.
And Jalen Husky. Jacoby Thomas, I don't think he worked out at the combine, so that's not going to really help us. Fifth-year safety product, a little bit older, but 6'1", 211. Not terrible. And then Jalen Husky's guy, I don't even know who that is. But yeah, so I mean, there's just so many players. Then that's why, like, you see like the Beast come out, and you're like, oh my god, like the Beast and the amount of work that he does, and you're just like, man, like the in depth. That's really kind of fascinating. Brugler, by the way, gave Husky a 6th round grade. So,
all right.
So it's interesting. I'm curious to kind of see what that looks like. So, from Maryland, as Nelson pointed out. So, I don't know. This is kind of the Patriots did this last year, where it's like you take a guy that no one's talking about at safety. No one was talking about him at safety, and people kind of mocked it at the time. People didn't like it at the time. People thought it was a reach. And he ends up being one of the best players in your secondary, right? And was playing phenomenal football at the end of the year, right? So you're hoping for a second-year leap from him as well. And you say, okay, now you bring in, a veteran safety that has played with Vrabel before, and you feel like, okay, now your safety room's really getting good. You draft another safety and put him in there, whoever it is, right? And you feel like, okay, now we're talking about a great secondary. So I'm curious to see where they go, but Again, this is one of those things where it's like, we like these guys. I think that Vrabel and Cowden and even Wolf, to an extent, they've earned a little bit of trust here, where we can say, hey, you know what you want, what you're looking for. So it's not always going to be good, but we're gonna kind of trust that you have an idea what you're doing.
I also want to. I'm just going to throw this. It's only tangentially related, but I had been looking at it when I was looking at my mock draft. When we talk about the consensus boards on here all the time, it's also worth noting how far off the consensus boards can be from the way the board falls. Mm-hmm. As an example of that, I was looking specifically at pick 63 because that's what the Patriots have this year. And that's just the data I have. That's from 2015 to 2024. So it's 10 years of the draft instead of last year's in here. Of the 10 picks at pick 63 that were made in that span, only 2 of them were within 20 ranks in either direction of the consensus board pick. Okay. So you've got, in that span, you've got 4 guys where guys fell. That's Creed Humphrey, Juan Thornhill, Carlton Davis, and Kingsley Suamataia. All guys who are ranked in the 40s, low 40s, all there still by pick 63. You got 2 guys that were supposed to go in that range, Deion Dawkins, Marvin Mims, and then you got a bunch of guys who were reaches. You got 2 reaches in James Cook and Willie Gay, who were ranked 89, both of them. And you've also got Adam Gotsis and Frank Clark in 2015 and 2016, who were each over 100 points off by consensus. So, like, I think we can look at this stuff, and it's like, all right, we might be having all these conversations, and all of a sudden the Patriots are taking a guy who is ranked 85 at pick 63, or taking a guy who, we thought might be in conversation at 31 at 60. Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. It is fascinating how guys fall down. And it is funny, too, when you think about the consensus board. Creed Humphrey is a guy. I mean, what a name there where it's like, yeah, he probably should have been a first-round pick. You know what I mean? Like,
Good player.
kind of missed on that one, that he wasn't a first round pick. And so it's one of those things where that consensus board isn't always perfect, right? There's obviously guys on the consensus board that we take higher, that we take lower, or whatever the case may be. And who knows, but usually the consensus board does a pretty good job of finding the guys that are the best players. Obviously, there are exceptions to the rule, clearly, because, again, like you said, you're talking about 22, 21, 22, 23-year-old, 24-year-old, 25-year-old, 26-year-old, maybe depending on some of the guys in this year's draft. But you're talking about young men who are going into an interesting situation, and we don't know how they're going to respond to it. So there's a million different reasons why guys work out and guys don't work out. So we don't know for sure. It's an inexact science, but for the most part, the consensus board does a pretty nice job of kind of getting those guys pretty much on the right track.
Well, like, it gets the ball rolling in the right direction, at least.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. So it's been fun. We were able to hit everyone. We don't really need to talk about the specialists. We could talk about punter if we really wanted to. Jack
I have
Stonehouse.
no best fits or favorite fits for specialists.
Jack Stonehouse. That's the only one. Jack Stonehouse,
Sure.
Just because he
He's
did.
a stone.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
House.
Yeah. Jesus. No. He did do. I think he was recruited by what's Caleb Burton's boyfriend's name? Who's the special teams coordinator? With the beard. What the hell's his name?
It's late.
Golly.
No, nothing's coming to my mind right now.
Dang it.
My brain is empty.
What the hell, dude? Patriots special teams. This is embarrassing.
Springer.
Jeremy Springer. Yes, thank you. Caleb Burton's boyfriend, aka. But nevertheless, so Jeremy Springer met with him or tried to recruit him when he was in college, when Springer was working in college. That is so. Has some previous relationships there. Goes to school in Syracuse, which is in the Northeast. Like, whatever. Who knows? So, but he's the guy that I have as my number one. I don't know anything about punters, so I'm not even pretend to know what I'm talking about. But I just like it better. So we'll see. But anyways, I think that's what we got. I think that's everything. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. We're gonna have a mock draft Monday, and here's what I'm gonna tell you, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I will not be present for the last Monday before the draft. So next week is our final mock draft Monday.
I can see ours together.
Our final, like me and you together. Matt will probably do one without me. I'll be tuned in. I will be seated during my cruise. But nevertheless, so get those mock drafts into us. Nelson submitted one to us that we did not get to today. We will get to it,
We'll do it Monday.
on Monday for the mock draft Monday. So anyways, tune in on Monday for mock draft Monday, and we'll see you then 2 weeks away. 2 weeks, we're almost there. We're almost there, ladies and gentlemen. We're getting there, and then it's OTAs, and then it's going to be great. It's going to be great. So football season's coming, and the warm weather is coming. It's coming. It's coming. It's happening. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it is going to happen at some point.
We got 80s here next week, and I cannot wait.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm excited about that. It was frost on my car this morning, like literally frost on my car. Brutal. So, but anyways, all right. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We appreciate it. Thank you to the chat, as always. And be good to each other, and go Pats.